Joyce, how are you, Miss Joyce? It is so good to see you.
There we go.
Sorry. Hello.
Okay, welcome back. So, what we're not gonna stand on introductions. Well, we'll do a short one real quick, but we're gonna get right into it. Tonight we are learning tarot. This is part two of learning tarot. Again, tarot is used as a tool, but tonight we are learning about it, and it is used merely as an alternative to finding answers in life and what we'd like to see happen or what we try to make understanding of what's happening in our lives. It is for entertainment purposes only, however. It is not meant to be something taken as the final word, as what a judge would do. But we are here learning from Annie G, AIM Readings on Instagram as well as YouTube. We have gone through the first eight cards. We are now headed into the next set of cards, and I believe this was
The
one of
Hermit.
the Hermit, a little bit darker, a little bit heavier, and let's just get into it.
All right, everybody. So welcome back. Thank you, everybody, by the way, again, for joining us again. Thank you for coming back. So we left off with the Hermit. So with the Hermit, we left off with strength, we should say. So with strength, now we get into the nines. Now from the eights, we saw, yes, with eights, we saw the strengths and all the possibilities that can come from standing within our strengths. Also learning what our strengths are, learning all of these things. And now we come in with the number nines with the Hermit. Now, the Hermit himself is also light. He's light within himself. But nines is also about solitude, gaining personal insight, okay? That independence for yourself, okay? Gaining that, okay? That it's like a mental and a spiritual lesson, okay? So these are lessons that you are in the process of having to learn now, which is what is bringing us into what is called the dark night of the soul. Now, that what we call the dark night of the soul, that doesn't necessarily mean dark, crazy things. It just means that this is the hard time. This is where we're being tested in our journey. And in our whole lives, no matter what we do have these moments where we're always going to be tested. We're always going to be tested and taken to our limits. And sometimes those limits come with hardship, because with that hardship, we have that gained wisdom, which is what we see with the Hermit. He is all about those things, that manifestation and that being himself incarnate, okay? That light, okay? That light at the end of the tunnel, okay? Remember it like that, okay? Just literally. Now, with number nines, it's also about attainment, okay? It's also about fears. Okay, fear of not making it, fear of failure. Again, these are things that the cards around it will tell you in a spread. Is it, is it a fear? Is it not a fear? Is it a wisdom that needs to be learned? Is it, something, again, the spreads, the cards around him will let you know what is being said to you, what message needs to be relayed. So don't focus too much on that. Just remember that this is like the light at the end of the tunnel. It's that fear we have within ourselves, because it's like we can always be so hard on ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're always trying to say, oh, that'll never happen, or I can't do that, or oh, I won't make it, or I won't do this, or blah, blah, blah. Whatever excuse it is that we tell ourselves on why we can't or why we shouldn't or whatever, what if. And this is those fears. This is those fears coming into carnate, okay? And it's also a journey where you're almost at something. You're also at some kind of, what we saw in that transition and then that direction with the lovers and the chariot, which brings us into our strength, which we saw in the 8, is now bringing us into that transition of that wisdom that we are learning, okay? What isn't working? Okay, what isn't working? That self evaluation, okay, and evaluation within your journey, okay. You're almost there. You're almost at that accomplishment of like your inner strength. You're focusing. Now, what is it? In that journey, you're almost at some kind of a completion. But you're also wanting to gain independence, okay? And so that could be an inward battle, because that could be something that you think that you need to battle. So it's mastering yourself, mastering your skills, mastering your wisdom, mastering the fact that you just learned about, there's this whole entire being and universe, outside of your own head. Maybe that's something completely new, because for some people, like for people who don't have any belief, like atheists, or something, who have no sense of belief, that could be this is a huge thing for them. This would be like a whole entire, like, mind blown. We got to be here in this hermit place maybe for like a year or two, because it's like a shock. So again, this all pertains to who you are, the cards around it, who the client is, etc. Okay, so it's all about that solitude, personal insight, gaining the wisdom from experience. Okay, that's the important things to take from the Hermit. Now, it's Kabbalistic association. This is literally, okay, now what I'm about to say may be controversial, but this is the Kabbalistic association with this card. Okay, so this is historically, this isn't Annie. Okay, this isn't Annie's opinion. Okay, so this is a literal depiction of God himself. It's our ability to see the beacon of hope and help and faith, spiritual awareness. So this was known as literally God himself. What are those three letters that God is God's name? Those letters are what is this. Okay? Incarnate. That's what the Hermit is. And that is what starts to get us into, and that actually I want to talk about this. Notice also his rod, his staff. Okay? So every time you see rods, every time you see staffs, every time you see those things, that's like, again, like I said, that could be help, or that could be protection. Okay, so that's a tool. And the cards tell you what kind of a tool that's being needed for. Okay, what do you need that for? And then the surrounding cards will let you know. Like if this is coming from, like, if this is surrounded with like the Tower and like the Five of Wands or something, it's like, okay, you need to just like take a step back. No action right now. No action. And, just too much chaos. Okay, that's what that means. It'll always tell you by the surrounding cards. So just that, just seeing those things, seeing those things, remembering that those rods, and that light, remembering that. And also, like, is the background, like on some decks have it where some things are cloudy, which means there's some kind of fogginess happening in your intuition. Some decks have it like that, where there's more clouds. And you do also see that with Pamela's, but because it's an older artwork, it's kind of hard for people to distinguish. But make sure that you pay attention to those things. The clouds, the clarity, the suns, the moons, they're telling you something. Like the suns are clarity, things coming into clarity. You yourself opening up into a new light, a new thing. Also possibilities. The moon is always about our creativity and intuition. It's always about goddess, and the sun will always be a god. It'll always be a masculine, and the moon will always be a feminine, because the moon pertains to our own feminine cycles that we women go through monthly. They are linked. It's also just, that is why it's goddess. The moon controls the tides of the oceans, the waters pertain to our emotions. We're all going to learn those things with the majors, but it's all connected. It's all intertwined. And that is what you are understanding with the Hermit, and that is just a lot for some people. So that is what brings us into this dark night, which then brings us to a number 10. And with the numbers, this is, as we see, an ending, but also a beginning. This is also a cycle of some kind, okay? A transition, a change, okay? Success. It could be like the finish line to something, like a graduation, or like I don't know, whatever that's a transitioning stage in someone's life, okay? Which could bring achievement, or like mean that you're done with something, okay? So that's what tens are all about. And now
a completion then, yeah, kind of like a completion.
Yeah, it's a completion, and along with that completion is also going to come a new. So it's also renewal energy. It's also renewal with that completion, um, and now also along with this, you see the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, which is also telling you that things are always changing. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune is a huge signal of change. Okay, consummation, movement, evolution. Okay, all about the changes that we know we're going to go through in our lives. Okay, it's a reminder that what goes up must come down, and vice versa, that nothing is permanent and nothing is forever. That is the Wheel of Fortune. It is always, the wheel of motion is always turning, faith is always turning, and where that lands is always going to be based on your choices. So if you're going to find yourself in the bottom of this, it's going to be because how are you choosing to go through this moment? Okay, the hard times you're facing with the hermit, that you need to look within and take a step back away from the world, because with the hermit, you need to be by yourself. And that might be something you're battling because you're coming to that completion in your journey. You're coming to that transitional state of being as your soul, just as a being itself, as a human. That change, that transition, you can't just fight it. You can't, this isn't something, like I said with the majors, this isn't something that we have control over. This is gonna happen. So whether it's gonna happen and be hard or catastrophically hard is gonna be based up to whether you're going along with it or you're fighting against it. It's all going to be based on that. And that is where this dark night of the soul could be kind of heavy, but for the best. I mean, either way, it's going to be for the best, okay? But either it could be not so difficult, but difficult, or it could be absolutely draining and a battle that you are having. And why? Because you're just going through the self-denial, because you don't want to change, because change is something that makes everyone so afraid for some reason.
Oh yeah.
And that's the big thing about the Wheel of Fortune, change. Okay? Always, it will always happen. Before I move on, I want to make sure I said everything. Oh, yes, and it's all the laws. This is all the universal laws, okay, and understanding the karmic responsibility of our actions, okay? This is understanding that our actions have a reaction, okay? Everything is a domino effect. So karma, where this karma lands for you is based on your actions, okay? It's all going to be like, it's like a dance, okay, that you're doing in your journey, okay, between the spiritual and the material world within your life. Okay, so your spiritual journey and your material, which is the earth, what you're trying to work for, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to materialize. You're doing that dance every day that you wake up and then go to sleep. We do that dance whether we realize it or not, and that's what the wheel is. That's all about the materialization, okay? This is also seen as the eye of Shiva. Okay, so on some cards, that's also why you see a huge eye there, because some artists wanted to pertain that eye of Shiva, and so that's why on some decks, you'll see those things pertaining there, because the artists, it's also good. That's also why I always tell people, like, allow yourself to have more than one type of artwork when it comes to the Rider-Waite Smith decks, because different artists depict the different meanings of the cards, and so you'll get other readers who are the people creating those decks. You'll get a sense of their idea of what that card is or what it should look like, and so you kind of get a different perspective by going through all of these decks. Even though they're all like Rider-Waite Smith based, they're different artwork. Like, look at the Crow deck, look at the Mermaid deck, look at they're all very different artwork, however all in the same system of Rider-Waite Smith, right? So it all shows a different idea of that card. Like how we were saying, each card has so many different meanings. There isn't just one little simple meaning to each other. And so that's why it's a good thing. It helps you expand in your reading when you go through different decks and look at these different artworks and see what connects and what doesn't. It's actually very opening for you, intuition wise. So it's definitely something that I recommend for people to do also. So we got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, a little side note. But yeah, so with the wheel, let me see what else did I miss? The material world, I say yes. So the Eye of Shiva. So yeah, so that's why you see those different images depicted. So now, once we get through this completion, however, oh my goodness, everything is messed up here. We get to the number 11. And the 11 here for me, it's the strength, but here is the justice card, okay? Now with 11s, it's 11 comes out to a number 2, okay, which connects to the high priestess, okay? So the justice has connections to the high priestess numerologically. You see how that associations go, like within the deck? Everything is connected within itself. So with the justice, we turn that internal wisdom and growth that the Fool has been going through, which we have been going through in our journeys, and we are taking that inner self, and now we are held to justice. Our actions that we have gone through until now are going to be weighed. This card, a lot of the times, which I love seeing depicted, you see Ma'at and Anubis, and it's ancient Egyptian mythology, which is if you want to call it, if you want to say religion, that's my religion. I believe in ancient Egypt. That's just me. Anyway, so that is, you see that depicted as the justice, because the belief is when we pass away, our karma is to see where we go, whether that's, whatever you believe, if that's heaven or hell, good or bad, whatever. But where you go in your next life, they believed is weighed between your heart and a feather, which is where the scales come. And so that's why you also will see that depicted in other decks, because that's where it comes from. So it's like we are now being held responsible for our actions. So where this justice falls into place in our spiritual journey for the Fool so far, now the Fool might see this as a hard truth that, you need to swallow. Or it could be a really, really good truth and insight and light that's coming in because you have good karmic, things. You've been doing good and you haven't been doing so bad. But this dark night can be very dark if you have not been the best. And this is also where our shadow work comes in. Okay? Now, when we talk about shadow work, it's about working on our skeletons in our closet. All the things that you don't want to acknowledge, you face and you acknowledge. Not only do you face them and acknowledge them, but you work on them. And you do it every day for as long as it takes. And that is shadow work. And you can go to a spiritual worker to help you, which will actually really speed up the process and help a lot. Or you can do it on your own. It's totally up to you. However, it's going to happen. So that is where this justice comes into play. With the justice,
you said that
it's like
this card is 11. If you add the two numbers together, it equals 2, which is affiliated with the High Priestess. And if I'm looking at the High Priestess card as well now, this card as well is in between two pillars.
Yep. It's the internal wisdom of being unbiased. It's that connection of your spiritual growth and progress. But not only the progress, but spiritually. That higher wisdom and the higher knowing where you know better. Even if you don't want to admit it out loud, you know better. And that is where at this point you know better. And that's why one of the meanings here is not only law, court, justice system, like literally like the justice system, but it's about truth. It's about truth coming into light. Where that truth falls for you, now that's a different story. And that's why this is a dark night of the soul, because this is where we get hit by our karma. This is where we get humbled back the fuck down. Okay, because maybe we've been a little too ignorant and prideful and have let our ego run amok by the time we get here, and we need spirit to calm us down. Okay, so bring us back into balance. Okay, that universal law is always there whether we like it or not, and it will always come either to bite us in the butt or to kiss it and say good job.
Yeah.
That's totally up to you.
We need more of that.
Now, originally, the 11 is the strength card, because originally, numerology-wise, you see with the high priestess that internal wisdom coming into your strength from that. Okay, and so numerology-wise, that is why that is. But again, I don't know why Waite changed it. I'm sure there's an important reason that has to do with their like Golden Dawn, but it is what it is. So now, from here, from the justice, from dealing with all this fucked up shit with our karma and answering for ourselves and dealing with ourselves, and for some people this might take 5 years, 10 years, because if you are not wanting to see your own mistakes, if you are not wanting to, you're just kind of like repeating the same thing expecting a different result, like insanity, you're gonna be stuck there. Yeah, obviously, there isn't going to be good things coming into your life because you're not allowing it. You're blocked. You're being blocked. And then by doing that, you're blocking your energy. And so now you're energetically blocked, which then, like a domino effect, then you're spiritually blocked. And so and it just keeps growing and growing and going and getting bigger. And your blockage is just expanding. And so for most people, that's where we are. I mean, for my journey, I definitely had to do it the hard way, and most people do, and that's okay. And that's why it's called the dark night of the soul, because this is where we're doing the heavy loads. This is the heavy burdens and heavy lessons that we're learning in our journey and in our lives, that the Fool is learning as he's progressing. So we're going from things progressing in a nice peachy way into learning your lesson from, there's actually repercussions to your actions. You can't just you can't just go do whatever you want, and that's what it's all about. And so we come from that into the 12, which we see is the Hanged Man. Now, the Hanged Man is all about different perspective. It's all about gaining a different light and way of seeing and believing things. It's a whole new concept. So it's surrendering, okay? It's a big card of surrender and self-surrender. Surrendering to the situation and issue that you're going through at hand. Okay. Let's see what else. Let me see. Secrets. There we go. That's the one I'm trying to remember. Secrets. So it's about tradition, but also secrets that you are withholding. You have been withholding things you're lying to yourself about. Getting out of that, okay? That different perspective. Those things that you need to learn from the justice, from the karma that you just went through, and learning your lessons from that different perspective, gaining that new sense of light and direction from gaining that different perspective, which is by surrendering your old ways, surrendering your old ways of thinking, surrendering all of those things, which is one of the hardest things to do. This is why the majors are very difficult and people don't like them, because these are set things. These are things that we're going to go through in our lives. And what we go through in our lives is difficult. And not everything, and sometimes, it's harder for others than others, and whatever, but like we all in some way, somehow, shape or form are going to go through this process and this alchemical process. And it's all about how we get out of it. You know, we're in the middle area of the dark night of the soul, right? We're getting in that middle area. And that is the different perspective, that shift, that either you're learning the hard way or you're learning in the worst way. Okay? That perspective is going to come. And this might be a huge fucking bitch slap to the face, or this could be surrendering to the issue, which is why his hands are behind him. That surrendering to the issue, surrendering completely to whatever it is that you need to surrender to have and gain that different perspective. That whole way of thinking and feeling and seeing, you need to change that. So basically changing like who you are in a big sense, you know, but for yourself, for your life, for your journey, okay? Growing up in a sense, okay? That's a huge thing about the hangman, okay? That sacrifice, okay? Transitioning, that shifting of awareness, that transition that's happening, and listening to that and surrendering yourself to that. And now what I like about the Marseille is it shows like this. So we see these branches. And these branches equal 12, which are the zodiac symbols, which is creation itself, okay? And the laws of creation, kind of like the pillars. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Surrendering to the situation, to a new being, by being the number 13 branch, which is goddess, which is the moon, okay, which is your intuition. So literally a spiritual awareness and transition and awakening. Okay, this is a huge spiritual awakening that you are going through, and this is very, very difficult. This is a very difficult card to go through. This is a hard time to go through. So when you see this through for your client, know that even though they're there smiling and making it seem like not so difficult, this is something difficult that they are going through or have gone through or are processing. Again, surrounding cards will let you know what's what. Before I move forward, I want to make sure. Oh, yes. It's the result also of your karma. So the karma we just saw, okay, with the justice, this is the result of it. So it's kind of like what I was just saying, that transitioning, right? That growing up process. That's what it's all about also, okay? Now it's also surrendering to the fact that you are understanding that there is a will in the universe. There is a universal will and law that maybe we can't explain, but it's there. And you're surrendering to the fact that, okay, I can't control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to. And that's okay. That's another huge message, okay? So that whole shift of perspective. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. Oh, and this was also depicted back in the days as Osiris himself, Christ himself, and Buddha. So this is the whole transformation of life, death, and rebirth. So I was just saying to you guys that this is kind of like getting into the middle ground of the dark night, and that's why. It's the transitioning, it's the process of the life from the fool, okay? And then now the death of the stupid ignorance and the stupid ways of thinking and seeing and persevering and thinking and doing that we need to change, and then doing it and coming out of it into a rebirth and a renewal, which is now number 13. We get into the death card. Now with the death card, everyone is afraid of this, and there's no reason to be afraid of these cards, okay? There's no card here that needs to be afraid of, okay? There isn't. That's like saying like you're afraid of your life, you know? Like no, like we all die. We all come with an expiration date, you know? And the death card, you guys, very rarely means death. Doesn't mean death.
I think that's part of the misconception
very
that a
rarely.
lot of people
Oh, yeah.
have, that these cards. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how can we predict death? It's not. I believe it is not telling you, okay, you're gonna. There's an ending for you for something. In other words, what I'm saying, it is an ending of something that you might have been going through.
Yes, it's
Not
a dying
necessarily
process.
dying process. Not
Exactly.
necessarily a physical death or an ending of
Exactly.
life. It is an ending of something that
It's
you
the
were
old you.
experiencing.
It's the ending of the old you. So what we're seeing with the hangman, that surrendering and that change is now progressing in through slowly action, but very slowly. Because now with the death and the 13, we see that transitioning happening. Okay, that transition is now taking place, and we are starting to really feel the changes. Okay, and the endings and the renewal, this whole new, when you get into that new and everything feels weird, it's kind of like that sense where that's where we're at. Okay, this transition changes, and this is also a shift of awareness, just like the hangman was. This is also coming into the new, right? The transitioning process of that. And now on the bottom, I am dropping things.
Chris
And now on the bottom
says,
here,
Chris says, I feel like this is a good card, the death card.
it is a great card because it's a huge transformation card. Transformation fully from everything that you need to let go of. And that's why if you pay attention here in the background, you will see pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Again, pillars.
Yep.
Okay. And the sun behind the pillars. That is reminding you that there's a new day. There are new things coming with this end. What has just transitioned needed to transition. And what you are leaving behind was meant to be left behind and not follow you now and into your progress. Okay. So
Well, if you
for
look
that to,
under the horse, there's I guess, an elder male figure. And this is the
yeah, I'm getting to
first
that
card I
right
see there's
now.
a child in.
Yes, I'm getting to that right now.
Okay,
So
forgive
you're gonna
me.
see you're gonna see that there's this guy here. Okay. Oh, but before I get to that, you see that there's water behind too. So
Yep.
that's reminding you to stay adaptable and with the flow through this change and transition period. And when we see the figures, you see one person is standing, it's the Pope. Okay. One person is a child. One person is a man and another is a woman. And that is a symbol that death and transition comes for us all, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how high up you are or how much of a normal everyday Joe you are. This period is going to come for all of us, and there's nothing we can do to stop it or change it. That's what those people mean. That's what those symbols mean. And that is a huge meaning, like it's a huge spiritual awakening that this transition, it's done. Some people have a hard time letting go. And with death, you gotta dead the issue. That's what I like to tell people. I'm like, dead the issue. Do it, let it go. Some people rather stay stuck in like a relationship or like some kind of a hard place or situation that they don't need to be in, only because they're comfortable, only because that's what they know, and they don't want that transformation and change, which is why they're stuck in a hanged man place. They are stuck in that, not allowing that transformation to begin and process, because that transition first starts within you, which is the hanged man, before it can materialize into action through the transition, as we see here with the 13. And so in order for that to happen, as we see, everything's a domino effect. So it's all about that action that we're putting within ourselves. And that whole process, it's literally a dying process of the old us, who we were, who we used to think and feel and stuff like that. Whatever that we need to like literally let go of. Our ego, our pride, those ways that person we were is not the person we were meant to be in the future, and you need to let that person go. You need to say goodbye, and that's why, like in therapy and in psychology, you can talk to your inner child. There's inner child work. There's all of these things, because you talk to yourself, and then you let yourself go, and you transition into a new you, a better you, a much better you, a much more grown up you, a much more you with more wisdom to bring into other people. Because if you don't go through this process, how could you be there for other people? You have to be there for yourself first. And that is what this journey is about. It's about the progress within ourselves and that awakening that we need to go through. And honestly, nowadays, I think this is the most important time to go through this. With all of this chaos in the world, we all
Yeah.
need spiritualism and some kind of wusa, you know.
Yep. I
It's just
agree.
it could be very hectic. Now with 13s are a huge number of transition, and it's connected to the moon, like I said earlier. So it's intuition, into being intuit, okay, and learning how to listen to your gut feeling, okay, what your intuition is trying to guide you to, okay, because those are all things you need to surrender to. Because the more you fight this moment, okay, before I actually move on, let me make sure I got everything before I move on. Movement. Yes. Okay. So the more you fight this, okay, because like I said, this is needed, this is required in our life journey. The more you fight this is the harder the tower moment is going to get. And it got lost in my, no, hold on, guys. I'm getting lost here.
So the death card is also known as an
Temperance.
ending of a cycle of transition, getting rid of
Yes,
excess powerful movement and resolution.
exactly. Exactly. It's all about that transitioning from the old into the new. That's why you see that sun in between the pillars, that higher wisdom, that internal source coming into a new light, into a new day from that death of the old. It's that
Mm-hmm.
whole transition. And the more we fight it, the more that tower moment is going to seem harder than it needs to be. And that's what we're going to learn before we get there is the temperance. Now with the temperance card, we were saying earlier with temperance, you're not supposed to tell if it is like no gender figure, because at the end, our souls are a soul and we are genderless. We are all being, right? We are all. And and with the temperance card, it's all about balance, but balance through our actions. You can see the water being poured out. On some decks, it actually shows that in one cup it's fire and in another it's water. And that's the alchemical balance within our passion and our
Mm,
drives and our emotions. Finding that healthy balance to create so that the water isn't taking out the fire. It's in this complete motion and balance, and that can only happen through trial and error. And that is what's going to lead you to that new journey, that new road, the new path into a brighter day and more clarity into things. And also within the feet halfway being in the water and halfway being out, that's also being intuitively keeping yourself spiritually connected and grounded, but also at the same time materialistically keeping yourself grounded. So earthly and spiritual balance here is what we see. Communion, healing, guidance, all those things here. And now we see here also, this is also the number 14. With the 14, that's a 5. Now with 5s is the Hierophant. Where is the Hierophant? If I can find him, that would be great. Is it the 2? Where is it? Here it is the Hierophant, okay? Now with the Hierophant, that was the higher learning, higher knowledge, and the temperance is where we bring all those things into the alchemical balances within ourselves in our journey, and that's what the temperance is all about. This is also a big sign that your angels and your guides are with you.
mm,
This was seen as Saint or what is it, Michael. Okay, this is who this is depicting. And in a lot of cards, you will see literally Mikhail depicted as his angel form. So this is literally the alchemical processes of the actions that we need to do. Okay, so like the unities of the opposites, like I said, the fire and water, the unity and finding that balance within yourself and your action is what it's all about within the temperance card, which then once we get that clarity and union, we get into 15. Now with 15, we see the devil. Now the devil, this is about sex, desire, your lower natures. It's also about lies, things you're lying to yourself about, things that you're being lied to about, things that you have lost control over. This is about things that you are no longer in control of. When you see the devil, you've lost the ability of something important. You've lost the ability of control. Okay, and that's what is so important. That control is what you're going to be needing here. Okay, it's your desires, your choices, your actions. That's no longer within your control, and so that's why this could also mean doing too much of something, which is alcoholism or something like that, or some kind of addiction of any kind. That could be a workaholic, that could be sex, that could be drugs, that could be whatever. There's addictions of all forms, and this could be one of them because, like the lower form. And that's why you see these chains. If you notice on the picture, these chains are depicted loosely. And that's to remind you that you are not stuck. You have the ability to get out of this manipulation. All these people have to do is to just take that off. But they think that they're stuck. Okay? And in other decks, it depicts that a lot better. But this is like you are not as stuck. You're just being manipulated. You're in a lie. You're not living in a truth. You're living in some kind of a lie. And it's something that you need to get out of. And that's why you're seeing those chains like that. And that's also why on some decks you will see like a what is it called? From Adam and Eve, the fruit. Like sometimes that's depicted here for those lower natures of like falling into it, into the manipulation thing. So again, a lot of artists, they depict things differently. So that's why it's important. Like it's really cool, like to get different insights and stuff. Looking at these different cards and art, different artists is something you can do with the Waite-Smith deck because the Marseille is pretty much the Marseille. It doesn't change. But with the Rider-Waite, there's so many different kinds. So when you're first learning, it's really good to get those like point of views. It's like it just opens and expands your mind and your intuition, and it's really great. So yes, let's see what else. Temptations, false truths. Okay, so this is where we were talking about the shadow work, right? This is where the shadow work needs to come into action, and this is where you need to see it.
Yeah.
Realize it. You're acknowledging it. You're waking up. It's like that awakening is now coming into action. So you need to start seeing things for what they are. And this disruption and changes that you're going to be going through is going to be pertaining to how you face these like manipulations and these truths and these things you're stuck about, these things that you're just battling within yourself. You have to see the truth. And now, let me just, before I go to the next one. Oh yes, these chains are also, it's being chained to what is bad for you. So I already said that with the whole addictions and overdoing things, but that's literally what those chains mean too, being chained to those things that, are for your lower half and no longer serve purpose, that you needed to let go of in the Hanged Man and you are still holding on to now, is now coming to bite you in the ass. Okay, so that is why this process is important for us to go through. And it's like if you want the success to happen, you have to have that surrender that we saw with the Hangman, that we went through with the Hangman, that process, that evolutionary growth to come to it. And the more that we get stuck is the more we're going to be stuck in the dark night of the soul. The more this is going to be very difficult for us. The more that this might be a complete disaster. Okay, I mean, honestly, it can be, and so this is where, this is where then after the devil, which is how you are going through these things, we see the Tower. Destruction. Now, this is destruction that needs to happen. This is the changes, okay, in action, but out of your control. These are the changes that maybe these are changes you've been fighting and trying to put on the, in the back of your head or not trying to face. And that is where the Tower moment can be catastrophic, because as we saw with the justice, we learned the karmic universal laws and balance that is always going to take place. And the more you fight it, this catastrophic change is going to be something that just knocks you down completely and shakes up your whole core. And as we learned in the 3 and the 4s, okay, that stability and structure that we needed in the beginning before we rise up and move on to anything else, that needs to be in place. And this is where we learn if that is strong and good or not. Because if our structures were not in place, if we cut corners, if we didn't do things the right way, this is gonna be something very, very hard to go through. This is going to be a moment of where this change is going to feel like a disaster, a complete chaotic change that you're like, why am I going through this? Nothing is going right. Why is everything going wrong? Like, you're just going to be stuck and lost in that chaotic scene. But if this is something that you allow yourself to progress through, if this is something that you allow yourself to be fluid about, if you made sure your structures and your things you were doing was as tight and good and in place as you can possibly have had it, this change isn't going to be so bad. This change is not going to be so catastrophic, because this change and this destruction of the old is needed, because after this, there's no more old. There's no more old patterns, old behaviors. This is where the complete new you, new thing, new journey, new light comes in. Okay? And that whole change is going to shake up your core values, the core ways of thinking, feeling. All of it is going to be that tower moment, okay? Disruption, quick changes, which might also bring you a new sense of awakening as well. All of those things. It's going to bring you into a whole sense of like a new. Now, I also have written down a spiritual illumination. I wrote that down because literally that's what's happening. This is a complete change and end and destruction of what needs to be destructed. Okay? And with that is going to come that spirituality, that illumination, that bright light. Okay? And on some cards, you can actually see a sun being depicted here, but I don't see that in the Waite Smith or the Marseille. But on some decks, Rider-Waite Smith style decks, there is a sun in here with like an eye or something, which is also depicting the eye of Shiva. Okay? And that's also a reminder that universally everything is happening as it should, and what the universe gave you the choice to let go of and you didn't, now is going to be taken because you needed to let go. And in order for you to progress, it needs to be let go. So this shakeup, that's why a lot of people have a hard time with that shakeup, because it's a hard destruction for them if they're fighting it. So it's like, again, I said letting go already, that projection that we put into our reality, I already said that, so just letting go of everything that was no longer serving you. And this is how and when we come out of the dark night of the soul finally and learn all of these hard lessons and go through the time in our lives that wasn't so good now, and come into the star.
Before we continue, let's take
Yes.
just a quick intermission. You can
Go for it.
hydrate, get some water in your system. Tonight we are learning about tarot. We are finding out so much interesting history, meanings of so much of things in our life. I'm finding this so fascinating. I love information. I want to thank our guests tonight, Annie G, AIM Readings on Instagram as well as on YouTube. Please do me a favor and follow her. Check her out. She does a daily reading every morning. She also does some other things on YouTube as well. If you want to check out some of her videos, I believe she does have sound bowl healing, tea readings as well. And I know she's got some other things coming up her sleeve that she would like to do on her YouTube channel. Is kind of excited. for her. We are putting together a tarot academy. If you'd like to learn tarot, please message me. There's a registration that needs to be filled out, as well as possible fees coming up in the future. It is a 6-month program that we're putting together. Tonight is merely an introduction into the tarot deck itself. Again, tarot, it is basically for entertainment purposes, but I'm finding out tonight that there's so much history behind it. There's so much thought put behind it. It is telling a story. We are talking about the Major Arcana cards, and it is telling a story of our soul. I think you said Annie, but
Yeah.
it is telling a story. It is like a book. It's like one of those books that you read, and it takes you from beginning to end. Except this story, at the end, will take you right back to the beginning. It comes full circle, like in life, like in The Lion King. It'll
Yep.
take you full circle from
Yeah.
ending back to the beginning. And it could be at that
And
point
all the
where,
transitions in between.
right, all the transitions in between, and the ugly and the dark and the happy and the light, all in between. And I think it's just so fascinating how when you finally have an have a understanding, a better understanding of what tarot can be used for as a tool. It is something that, like for me, my mind is blown right now. Seeing and hearing and understanding, I'm taking in a lot. I tell you, our videos will be up on our YouTube channels, both Annie's and mine, and we'll figure out, Annie, how we can get it to you as well. But we'll be putting this up so we can replay it. I know I'm going to be watching it over and over and over again because there's so much to grab at. And every time,
Yeah.
if you look at this card one time, you get maybe one message. If you look at it a second time, you get something else from the same card. If you look at it 153,000 times, you look at this card, you'll always get a different message from it. And that's not just for this card, but it's for every card.
Yep.
And if I'm understanding hearing correctly, it is not just this card that you get the message from. It is from all the other cards that surround it when you put it on in your layout, however you want to do your layout. And if you want to learn about layouts, if you want to learn about the minor arcana cards, if you want to learn more about tarot, we do have classes coming up. Please make sure you message me. Let's set something up. Let's make sure we get you registered for a class. Annie G will be our first tutor. And let me say, Annie, tonight you're going, especially this last part, at a very perfect pace. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Again, if I'm going too fast, just let me
No,
know.
no, you're
I,
doing
I am trying to
just
not
fine.
have us here all night.
You're doing just fine.
Or day, wherever you all are.
We've got the
I know other
last
people will be
five
watching.
cards. I know, right? But we've
So
got the last
before
five
I
cards
do
to go
go,
through.
yeah, so before I go to the star, I actually forgot. So I forgot to bring up. So the tower, as we see, so it's the 16, which ends in a 7. So with the 7, you see the chariot. So it's connected to the chariot card as well, numerologically wise. So with number wise, so it's a direction, okay, a new sense of direction. Okay, so a whole new, yes, a whole new sense of direction and understanding with that too. So I just wanted to say that too, which then brings us now out. Now we're finally seeing the light with the star card. We're finally seeing the hope and the faith and the renewal energies. We're finally coming out of the hard times, and we're starting to see this renewal process, this progress happen, this aspirations, the direction we were just working on, from the chariot to now the tower, getting that new direction of self, and whatever new direction. Again, the surrounding cards, the spread will tell you what direction that is. It will all tell you, okay? All of those things that we were just working on, those cycles, your talents, your creativities, the goods, the bads, it's all coming into light. right here. And this is where you are standing in your strength, you are in your hopes, and this is also a wishes coming true card. If you see this with other positive cards around it, tell your client to maybe go gamble.
Good.
Maybe go buy a lottery ticket or something.
Yeah.
Because there maybe luck is on their side, because this is just, we're getting out of that hard times with that star card, and it's just like a new source of a new awareness that's bringing us into the healing and the hope. Okay, and so it's the both here. I have it written. It's both the integrating and our releasing progress of spiritual awareness and ourselves. So both spiritually and our material. It's understanding that balance and understanding that and kind of being okay with it. And that's also why here you see one foot she has in the water, again, like the temperance. And
Right.
again, one foot on the, and that means the same thing, okay? Intuitively, spiritually being open and connected, and also being materialistically grounded at the same time, having that sense of balance within yourself.
And
Now, these
you said
stars,
water means fluid, being able to be
fluidity,
fluid.
going with the
Okay.
flow, staying adaptable to the changes. That's all with water, with your emotions, and keeping that adaptability in play and in motion in everything that you go through. Water is all about those things. Just making sure you stay adaptable, mainly.
Yeah, I was noticing when you said that the last time about water, I went back to look at some of the other cards, and there is all four of the elements in different cards at different times, different places. Water,
Hmm.
the earth or ground,
Yes.
fire, and also wind.
Yes, yes. And we're going to
Yeah.
get all into that when we get into the minors, because that's where all of that falls into play.
Okay.
But yes, exactly. And like, so here with the stars, notice that there's 8 stars here. And 17, 8, it's connected to the 8, which for weight, it's connected to the strength card. Okay.
Okay.
So it's reminding you to stand within your strengths. This hope is bringing you to stand within your own accomplishing strength, your internal strength. You're not as weak as you thought you were. And this journey after the tower is now showing you how strong you truly are after all of this you have now gone through in your journey. And that is the strength of balance, strength of determination. Again, surrounding cards will always tell you. So again, it's that hope, it's that new faith of renewal energy, which then brings us into the moon. Now, the moon is all about your intuition, being guided, reflections, mystery, your unconscious, your emotions, things that are unknown, things that you cannot see, things that you don't know, just literally things that are in the shadow that need to come out into light for you. Notice the 2 pillars there that still need to have that abundance, okay? The crawfish coming out of the water is you coming out of your shell. That means you coming out of your comfort zone emotionally, allowing that change and transformation to allow to progress. The wolf and the dog is your wild and your tamed side, okay? Your tamed and your wild instincts and natures, having that balance and intuitively allowing yourself to follow that, follow your gut feeling, and to keep that steady source within you. The emotional balance and allowing yourself to be adaptable here within the moon is very important, because here is where that adaptability is going to be very important, because you don't see everything. Things are not too clear, but you have to have the trust in the progress and within yourself and your actions here. And you need to trust that you don't need to know everything in order to move forward. And that is the moon card. Let me make sure before I move on from the moon card, I did not forget anything. Oh, yes, and it could also be like you're feeling unfulfilled. The moon can definitely be you feeling unfulfilled in your journey so far. So maybe you're feeling stagnation of some kind. And that stagnation can be from what I just said, from you not seeing things, all of it. You're not seeing the end, or you not knowing everything and understanding that that's okay. Understanding that you don't need to understand what is to come yet. You just need to power through, and you need to believe in what you're doing. That might just be it, you know. And that feeling unfulfilled might be for that person that they are not seeing that progress, and or the unknown is scary to them, and so they are choosing to stay stuck and then wondering why they're feeling unfulfilled. So that all can come from the moon. It could also be all about, again, that could be strength in your intuition. So someone growing within their intuition, someone learning how to listen to their intuition, someone just opening up their third eye consciousness. The moon can also be perceived that as well. And after that clarity is going to bring us that clarity, which is going to be the sun, is the sun card. As soon as I have so many cards in front of me, I'm sorry, I am going to find it right now.
Now, going back to the moon, would that be considered pillars on either side of the moon?
Yes. I brought that up. I don't know if maybe the microphone wasn't good. I'm sorry. But
No.
yeah, so that's standing in between your intuition and your conscious, your wild and tamed
Okay.
natures.
Okay.
So standing in between that wisdom of that higher knowing and inner knowing. And again, the crawfish is allowing yourself to come out of your comfort zone, to take a chance of that change, a change of environment, change of whatever. Again, surrounding cards will say what that is pertaining to.
Yeah.
But it's being in that wisdom, and again, that wild and tame nature in us, you know, balancing that out and not allowing one to overtake the other. That's what it's all about within that, which brings us into that clarity we see now with the sun card. Now with the sun card, this is also a 2. So this is, where are you? This is also the high priestess, okay? So this is clarity within your internal wisdom, within your internal emotion and intuitive nature, your third eye consciousness, that clarity. And that's why you see a naked baby here. Whenever you see a naked baby, it means purity. It means rebirth and purity in that rebirth. And the red ribbon is pertaining to your strengths and your accomplishments and your admirations. Like what are you trying to achieve and go for? That's coming into clarity, which is why you see the sunflowers, which is the growth within yourself pertaining to yourself. The white horse is moving forward with purity, with honesty. Okay, notice they're going to the right. The horse is moving to the right and the baby is looking forward. So that clarity shining in the direct nature of yourself in your journey is now bringing into clarity on why you're doing what you're doing. And you just need to make sure that as you move forward, you're doing things correctly and honestly, and you're not trying to manipulate things. So learning from past mistakes, learning from that devil and that tower moment, and now coming into this higher sense of that clarity where you have a shining light on all those things, that transfiguration of your growth. This is the sun. That is literally the sun there, okay? That growth, you're nurturing yourself in your growing process. And remembering that you are now in this new place where you have this new sense of clarity and understanding and movement. And that is what this sun is all about. Again, before I move forward, let me make sure it's a rebirth also, rebirth of yourself. I think I just said that actually. Looking at the world in a new way, that clarity I was talking about, and the wisdom that comes from the time and age of the journey that you've gone through. So all this journey that the Fool has gone through all the way up to the sun now. Now you have that sense of clarity of what you want to do and why you want to do it, and what you thought you wanted is not what you wanted, and you have that whole sense of knowing yourself and around you in this all senses, just this whole clarity, which also then the yods here, these yods, which look like little flames, they're called yods.
Mm-hmm.
So these also equal a 10 here in the Marseille, which I just said those are Those are like you see how numerology wise they're connected. There's some kind of that ending, right? That end of that old that you just progress through to where you are now in the sun moment, where you have that new clarity and light, and that comes from that. So that's why you see how when it comes to numbers, everything's connected. So you want to
Yeah.
pay attention to that, and because it's that's how it was made. That's why tarot is the system. It's a fixed system, and you got to pay attention to these things. So everything is connected. And that's also why I like the older systems, because they kind of portray those things a lot better.
Okay.
And
Makes
I don't know.
sense, though.
I have an old soul. Everyone who really knows me always tells me I'm an old soul. And I'm starting to think that's true.
Yeah, maybe you weren't born in the right era. Who knows?
I don't think I was, but that's definitely something I feel. So this new like transfiguration of clarity that we went through is now bringing us into our judgment. Okay. Now, with this judgment, let me put all this down. Now, with this judgment, this is our higher calling, our new conscious awareness. This is the rebirth in action. Okay. That's why you see people kind of like zombies coming out. Okay. That rebirth, that renewal of energy and higher knowing. Okay. So it's literally an ending and a beginning here. Okay. It's literally your conscious rebirthing awareness of like everything that you didn't understand spiritually now coming into consciousness for you. It's now no longer in the back of your head. It's now right there and you can't deny it. And all the things you had to let go of are now gone and you need to let go of. And also with the judgment, this is also a calling that you can't deny. So this is something you can't run away from. So in a lot of decks, you also see like this card being depicted around mountains, where it's showing that you can't get away from this. You know, you're surrounded. You know, this is a situation where these choices and decisions need to be made, and this whole entire rebirthing needs to now take place. It's time for action and change, and this is the time to do it. This is what, you know, that clarity that you just got for your higher calling. Now you have the sense of what that calling is, and now it's time for that action to progress. That higher calling needs to come into action now. You need to start putting the work in for yourself with that wisdom that is now gained to be that better, whatever it is that you're doing. You know, that full throttle effect needs to come into play with that judgment. And it's like you're choosing to leave the old new. And that with that awakening, and sometimes this, in some decks, this is also predicted as a sphinx rising from the ashes. Okay, because that's literally what you're doing. Okay, so with the judgment, if you ever get flustered on the meaning, remember the phoenix rising from the ashes, and let your intuition take you from there, because that is
So it's
what
more like a
this is.
reckoning, yeah? Is it
Exactly.
like a reckoning? Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. Exactly. You know, you're shedding and you're rebirthing and coming out, you know? So it's like that snake, you're letting go and you're coming into that new, but with action, you know? So it's like, you'll also see a lot like, oh, for example, in the magician, I forgot to bring that up actually. So in his belt, you'll see that snake that I'm talking about biting itself. It's a snake that bites itself. And that is creation. That is all creation within all of itself and all that comes with it. That's the symbol. And so that's why the magician has that in his belt, because you are creation. We were talking about that. So glad I remembered to talk about that. So once this judgment card comes in, this is a choice. This is an important choice that needs to be made. And this choice and decision, it's time for that person, if whoever you're giving that reading to, it's time for the person that your client is called a querent. So your querent is now ready to face their time. This is their calling. This is something that, okay, you need to leave. If this is a relationship that we see it's been bad for you and you're still in it, we're 3 readings in, 3 sessions in, you've been coming so many times and you're still here and we have the judgment now. Now this is time to face your truth and to walk away. This is something that you cannot run away from. This isn't something you can't get away from it. This decision needs to happen, or else you're going to be stuck. And
Eventually,
that's where
I think we all have to face it, right? Eventually.
Exactly. Exactly. And that reawakening in that judgment card is what also then brings us to the completion, to the world, that outer nature and harmony, the transition, the ending, and the beginning. Okay, whatever needs to happen that we need to let go of for the renewal to begin. This is where the renewal begins, and the old is actually let go. And this is where the old being let go is where we see the four fixed symbols and the whole. This is the rebirth and recreation. This is what we see with the snake. This is kind of like the snake depicted here in a way. It's the rebirth symbol, rebirth of the creation of yourself, of the new wisdom, new knowing, and now you're in the right place to proceed forward. You have now grown from the fool to the world, and you have now progressed and learned and gained that higher source of wisdom that you have wanted to attain and tried so hard to attain. And along with that, it's like full development. It's like balancing out yourself, okay? Here, like the double helix DNA, okay? Here, this robe. This robe is meant to depict our DNA strand,
Oh,
which is life and rebirth, and also change, because our DNA can change and does change as we get older. I don't know if
yeah.
you guys knew that, but it does.
No,
So that strand depicts our DNA. So that's why you see that there. So I'm glad I wrote that down there, because
that's
I was going to forget.
cool.
That's the double helix, okay, which is the womb of consciousness. This is the womb of our consciousness. So now we have grown up and have the consciousness and the awareness we need to progress forward. We have now grown up from the nothingness and everythingness of the fool to the full awareness and consciousness of the world. We have gone through the world. We have gone through the goods, the bads. We've learned our lesson, either hard or very bad. And now we are grown up and ready to face that new chapter.
Wow. That's this is one card alone. I mean, every card has multiple meanings to it if you look at it, but this card alone, this is a
Yeah.
powerful card. This is very
Oh yeah,
powerful.
this is a very powerful card. Yes, yes, very powerful card. And it's like also connected to with the 3, which is the Empress. So that fertility, that growth, that being grounded, adaptability for that change. You see how they're connected within our soul's
Yes,
journey. You
yes,
see how, because everything is numbers, and that's why I always say, like, numerology is so important, because everything in the stars, in everything, in math, in the clocks, in calculators, in everything. Everything is math. Everything is numbers at the end. Everything's connected with numbers. 7 is a huge number of creation. Everything astro-wise, numerologically, ends in a 7. Explain that. Okay, you get it when you do like the history with numerology and creation and how the planets and everything is aligned and what numbers they come down to. You gain this understanding, like this whole new sense of consciousness, and that is where the world is.
that is awesome.
That's why it's important.
And this time she is like the magician. She's holding 2 batons in her hand.
And she's holding 2 batons. Remember, I
Yeah,
told you that baton is very
right.
powerful, right? Just like a wand or something. Those are very powerful. Now we'll get into like hot and cold energies when we get into the minors, but this is a very, like, I know you think of wands as fire, but they're actually very cold energies. So they're very like real, and they're very very like in your face, and that's why I say batons. Think of them as something very powerful that could help you or protect you, because that's what it is. And imagine she has 2, because you are that much more powerful now, because you've gone through it. You're
Yeah,
ready.
yeah.
You are ready for that next chapter, that new phase. and
That's totally awesome.
that's the fool's journey.
That is totally awesome. A story being told in a matter of 3 hours. That is totally awesome. I want to thank our guest tonight, Annie G. AIM Readings on Instagram as well as on YouTube. It was so fascinating. So I listened to I listened to somebody who does a podcast on YouTube. She's been a long time doing podcasts, but she tells true crime stories. I like true crime stories. And in
Ooh.
a matter of an hour and a half, she will tell you a story of an actual event. And she'll take you from beginning to end, and in between, dropping little nuggets of information and knowledge and history of the story. And that's exactly what you took us on tonight, Annie, was this journey of a story, the fool's journey from beginning to end, and brings us all the way back around like the world card to the beginning. It's like we are living our lives here until we pass on to the next life and we come back again and start again. Maybe this time we get it right. Maybe this time we figure out the things we couldn't the last time. Maybe this time we can actually make more of an impact on people in our lives, make an
Mhm.
impact in our communities, make an impact in our friendships and in our connections. That is a lot. And I
It
want to
was a lot.
really
I hope all of you, I hope that was not information overload. I hope
not
I
for
didn't go
me.
too fast for everyone. And if I did, I'm sorry. I was trying to not have us here all day or night. Okay, so.
Hey, you know what? Thank goodness for replays, okay? So if
Yeah,
it was
so
something that was
definitely
too
if you
much,
are serious about learning and reading, just take your time as long as it takes. It's fine. It's not an easy process to learn tarot. It's difficult. So don't be hard on yourself. And just, remember, just replay like Lucas said, just replay and take your time, take your notes. Something that helps is like in your notebook, what you can do is like on one page you can put like one of the cards, like the Fool, and then do that with the other page with another card, and then write like what that card means to you, and then kind of like
mhm.
journal it like that. That's another good way to learn. But yeah, definitely just replay and take notes and journal your readings and don't rush. It's not an easy process.
But tonight we only covered not even half of the deck. We covered a portion of the
We
deck
covered the
and the
22
meaning.
majors.
The 22
And
majors.
the 56 minors, if my math, yeah, 56, 52, 56 minors will be
And we're going
next time we're in
to
a
be coming,
class.
that's going to be coming up. And it might be where Annie's going to be hosting the live instead, so we can have it on her channel as well. But you cannot give a full reading with half the knowledge. So if you'd like to get the full knowledge, make sure you message me if you would like to be part of our Tarot Academy. I am taking registrants to do this Tarot Academy. Annie G, who you saw tonight, is going to be our first instructor, our first tutor, our first teacher. And it is something that Grizz and I are really excited about. I know I am, now that I own a deck. And as we were going on tonight, I was frantically taking notes on two different papers, trying to get everything that was said. But I could actually see in my mind's eye where I would be giving readings in the future. Maybe selectively. I'm not sure. But
You're
I'm kind of
already
excited
intuitively
about
pretty
that.
open, so I see that.
Thank you for that, those kind words. But I think for me, this learning tarot or learning how to read any type of cards will be uh, something that will help me transition because I'm really feeling stagnant right now in my spiritual life. I think it'll help me transition me to that next step, which I'm really trying to grab at. I'm really trying to work on. And no matter how much good I try and do outside of social media that I don't really talk about. And I'm fine with that. But really, I want to be able to take where I am now and take me to that next level. I've been wanting it for a while, and I believe Learning Tell is a good tool for me to have when I need to whip it out and say, all right, let's see what we can do. Let's see what the card says. we want to do a live tonight. We're going to be doing only
It's
readings.
a great
Took you
tool,
long
Luca.
enough.
Like
It is a great tool.
whenever you choose a deck to actually use, like if you're dead set on using that deck in front of you, shuffle it, put your energy into it, and ask it, how are you going? Whenever I get a new deck, that's what I do. I go, how are you going to help me in my spiritual journey? And flip, 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 flip until a card pops up, and ask that question until it pops up. And that's how that deck is going to help you,
Okay,
whatever message
I'll do
pops up.
that. I'll do
And if
that.
you're feeling stagnant, here's a fun little trick that you can do. So shuffle your deck, shuffle all the cards, not just only the majors, all of it, all together. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And then after you're done shuffling, however much you want, so look at where like the devil or the tower is, and look at what card is on the bottom and what card is on the top of that card.
Okay.
And that's what you need to work on and what you need to get over.
Okay. Okay. I'll do that tonight.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's a fun little thing. Yeah, tarot, you're gonna have so much fun with it, Luca.
lastly, we had a request, and I have two people in the chat, and one of them is Misty. I think you know. She has asked for a reading, so I'd like to see if any of you are still have enough energy to do at least one reading. There is a
I could
gentleman
do
in
one
the
reading.
chat.
I have like 19% on my phone left, so we can do
So
it.
do
Let
I.
me just
So do I. Let's.
let me just clear this table in front of me, okay? So if you can just chit chat
Yeah, I will.
while I get my life organized.
Uh, we have a gentleman in the chat tonight. His name is City. He was one of the moderators with myself when
Thank
we were
you.
with another streamer.
Oh, I'm
Race
joking.
Citizen, I know, right? City is actually in your area as well, Annie. He lives in the same
Oh,
part of the world as you, but he is
thanks.
also he's intuitive as well, and I believe his spiritual animal or insect was the ant. So we used to call him
Oh, that's
the ant.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Uh, Um, but he is a longtime friend of ours. He is part of our community in the group chat. You may not see much of him typing in the room, but he is part of our community. So I would like to see if he would like a reading as well. Maybe do a couple of cards. We have about 10 minutes. So we're going to give you the 10 minutes. City, if you don't want a
Oh,
reading,
I'm not ready
that's
yet,
cool.
Luca.
Maybe we
I'm
can
not
have
ready
you
yet.
come back. I'm not ready for you yet, Annie.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Thanking Annie tonight for being here tonight, taking the time to write all of those notes, taking the time to do all of that, look up history of tarot and all the different European decks and the history of it and how it's evolved and transitioned and the different types of decks. So I'll show you real quick. A couple days ago, I was gifted a whole bunch of decks. So I don't know if you can see these decks right here. I've got seven or altogether. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven cards
Yes.
altogether. I've got the Rider White cards. I've got the Archangel cards. Oh, Annie's really cool. Annie's good people, City. Really good people. The
Oh,
Cosmic Journey
thank you.
Oracle cards. I also have one that's a little bit more spiritual, the prayer card. Miss B, if you're listening, if you get yourself ready, I can bring you up for a reading when Annie's ready. Sacred Spirit cards. This one I really like. The artwork is so pretty on this one. And the first deck cards I got was from a sister of mine who lives in Louisiana. It is Ascension cards. This is one of the first deck I actually got. And I love these cards. So I've been trying to do more pulling of cards during the day, and I try and post them on Instagram. Still trying to learn how to do that, trying to find my way around that. But I really wanted to learn tarot, and if you'd like to learn tarot, if you'd like, oh, I forgot this deck. This deck is called the Lenormand deck. This is a
Oh,
deck that I'm going to be
Lenormand.
teaching Annie. This deck is one of the prettiest decks I've ever seen. When I first had this one open, it just called out to me, and I
You know, you
understand
like
how to read it.
Lenormand style a lot, Luca, because it allows it's not a set system like the
Right.
tarot. So it
Yep.
will allow your intuition to kind of be free, and I think you'll love that.
And I think that's why this deck resonated with me so much that the first night I kind of slept with it, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
I want to be able to understand these cards. And I was watching videos of how to read these cards. This card's really this type of deck, from what I was told, is it tells a story. Whereas, like tarot cards also tell a story, but it is told in little increments, little snippets of reading through reading. With this Lenormand cards, it'll read like a sentence when you do the reading. So, so this is the Gilded Reverie, and I love these cards because they're so pretty. They're so nice. Anyway, with that being said, Annie,
I am
thank you
ready
again
when
for
you
tonight.
are.
All right, let's see if Miss B is ready. We are going to invite her up to the chat, up to the video. We have. Oh, she's not even here. Let's see. Miss B, are you still with us? I don't see you in the chat. City, would you like a reading, City? Otherwise, Shonda, would you like a reading? We are going to do one person because we are down to 10 minutes. Anybody? 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 City? City, would you like a reading,
Everyone
City?
wants to go take notes.
I know, right? Let's see if he'll join us anyway. Any last words for us, Annie, tonight before we conclude with our reading time?
I just had the world card pop up. So I don't know who this might pertain to in this group. I was asking for whoever needs to hear it in this group. Since no one was popping up, I just asked. So I got the world card. So I'm getting the sense where whoever needs to hear it, there is something coming to a completion. But there's also something that is rebirthing for yourself. But not only rebirthing, but there's a transitioning that's happening within your work, possibly. Something, Ooh, something that's moving very quickly. So with the Eight of Wands. So this is fast moving energy. This is going to be something that's going to bring you into your strength. So for whoever needs to hear it, there's a transition. Whatever ending this is, it's a ending that's going to be coming pretty quickly. But that ending is going to be bringing a new cycle of rebirth. So
I
there's
like
something
that.
new that's going to come from this ending. Now, I don't get the sense that this ending is going to be something bad with the Eight of Wands. This is probably something, maybe something someone's working on with their passions, their desires, that's maybe coming full circle, ready for the next chapter, and next cycle in their journey and in their progress. And remember that as things are going quickly, to stay methodical.
So City just said City Cynic said that two cards was for him. That message was for him.
Oh,
See,
oh, really? Hey, well, there
you
you go.
you pulled that, and you knew who it was for, and I intuitively I knew it was for City, but he just didn't want to join us on video. But with that, because we are dealing with 19%, probably 17% by now.
Man.
Annie G, Annie G, thank you so much for
Thank you
tonight.
for having me,
Oh
Luca. Thank you. This
my
is a
God,
lot of fun.
I
And
had
thank you for
such a
everyone for
good time.
sticking with us all this time.
Yes, yes. Part one and part two coming up. Grab your energy. So good for you, City. Costandia, it's good to see you, Costandia. She's a friend and OG from Periscope. She
Hey.
lives in Greece. Costandia,
Oh,
good to see you.
hi.
Um, Thank you again for joining us tonight. This is the end of our podcast tonight. Angie, my friend, my sister, my teacher now, thank you so much for tonight. I truly
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me,
I had the best
Luca.
time
Thank
tonight.
you.
I love
This
doing
is
it tonight.
great. It
Thank you
was
so
fun.
much.
I had fun.
And thank you to everybody who joined, everybody in our community for joining. Thank you so much. City is great to see you. Costandia, Grizz, I'm glad to see you back on and feeling better. The replay will be coming up on our YouTube channel, The Only Elephant in the Room. And also, if you're not following Annie G, go ahead on Instagram and go give her a follow, as well
Thank
as the
you.
YouTube. Annie, we'll see you later. Everybody else, we'll see you later. Take
Bye,
care. God bless. Aloha.
everybody. Mwah.